And away we go. It's just me at the moment. I'm genuinely not sure if Eric or Risk are going to join. Either way, the show must go on, or at least what goes on in this world. DeepMind's Gemini earns official IMO gold as OpenAI awaits confirmation. OpenAI announced on July 19th, 2025 that its experimental model achieved gold medal performance at the 2025 International Mathematical Olympiad. The model's success follows years of AI advancement with general-purpose reasoning approaches rather than highly specialized domain models for math problems. The model successfully solved 5 out of 6 IMO problems, scoring 35 out of 42 points, with the 4.5-hour time limit, which corresponds to a gold medal performance, ranking it within the highest tier of participants globally. OpenAI described the model as an experimental reasoning LLM, built on new research techniques, and cautioned it will not release this model for many months despite announcing GPT-5 soon. The milestone suggests scalable general-purpose AI can rival top human mathematicians and may accelerate AI contributions to scientific discovery in the future. Yep, AI is getting smarter and smarter, and its reasoning and how it thinks starts to get more efficient and efficient. So, just because AI is becoming so advanced and so smart, it does not mean that we're currently at the threat of losing our jobs. Well, at least not yet. Give it a few more years and it may come to that point, but it won't. And if it does, well, what are we going to do? Although I understand AI is going to get more advanced, there is a there's a troubling concern that if we keep using AI for our own personal gains, what purpose do we serve? What are we going to do? Will the jobs we have now still going to exist, even when AI gets to the point of being so smart it could outperform us in our jobs? Well, there's one way to find out. It will take a couple more decades of AI advancement to see if that is the case. The global switch to renewable energy has passed a positive tipping point, where solar and wind power will become even cheaper and more widespread, according to two United Nations reports released Tuesday, describing a bright spot amid otherwise gloomy progress to curb climate change. Last year, 74% of the growth in electricity generated worldwide was from wind, solar, and other green sources. According to United Nations multi-agency report called Signing the Moment of Opportunity, it found that 92.5% of all electricity capacity added to the grid worldwide in that time period came from renewables. Meanwhile, sales of electric vehicles are up from 500,000 in 2025 in more than 17 million in 2024. The three cheapest electricity sources globally last year were onshore wind, solar panels, and new hydropower, according to an energy cost report by the International Renewable Energy Agency. Solar power now is 41% cheaper and wind power is 53% cheaper globally than the lowest cost fossil fuel, the report said. Fossil fuels, which are the chief cause of climate change, include coal and oil and natural gas. The fossil fuel age is flailing and failing, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said in Tuesday morning speech unveiling the reports. We are in the dawn of a new energy era, an era where cheap, clean, abundant energy powers our world rich in economic opportunity. Well, although I still have questions about renewable energy and of course what people how people discuss climate change. If it's cheaper to generate power from renewable energy sources, That's great. But of course, we can't just rely on renewable sources, even if it is efficient and effective, and of course it's more caring to the environment. Will be other alternatives, like possibly biomass. And then, of course, there's nuclear power, but of course, I know people have many objections to nuclear power. Can't argue with that. I can't argue with those points. But yeah, so long as it's affordable and the costs are cheap to operate, that's great. But of course, just because prices are cheap does not mean that everything's all handy dandy and we can all frolic in the fields under a glimmering rainbow. There is much more progress that can be done, and there's still a lot more. So, hopefully, there is better progress, and hopefully, I hope people don't get too carried away, because even if it's very good that green energy is looking on the high up, there will be faults and there will be difficulties that will come about later that not many people may realize. Just putting it out there because I feel like a time like that is going to come eventually. Black Sabbath frontman Ozzy Osbourne dies age 76. Ozzy Osbourne, the 76-year-old frontman of Black Sabbath and heavy metal pioneer, died surrounded by his family on July 22nd, 2025. He had battled Parkinson's disease since 2019 and faced other health problems, including complications from a fall that year. Osbourne performed a farewell concert in July 2025 at Villa Park with Metallica and Guns N' Roses, where he thanked fans from a throne on stage. His legacy includes 5 Grammy wins, multiple Hall of Fame inductions, both solo and with Black Sabbath, and notable hits like Iron Man and Crazy Train. His death marks the end of a decades-long cultural impact, leaving behind his wife, Sharon, 5 children, and a global recognition, his heavy metal godfather. Wow. How very, very unfortunate. And of course, I had discussed this, like his farewell performance, just a couple of weeks ago. Like, he puts an end, once he's declaring an end to his music career, he will enjoy whatever time he would have left. But who would have thought that whatever time he has left it's up until now? Wow, that's wild. Rest in peace. Condolences, all the condolences are sent to his friends and family. I feel he could have lived a lot longer. There was so much he could have done after his music career that spanned many decades, but of course, you never know when someone's time on Earth comes to an end until we hear about it on the mainstream and hearing from word of mouth and so on. Enjoy whatever time you have left, because you never know if today might be your last. Air India jet skids during landing in Mumbai, damaging aircraft and runway. On Monday morning, flight AI-27 veered off the rain-soaked runway at Mumbai Airport, touching down at 10 a.m., according to CSMIA spokesperson. As Mumbai's monsoon intensifies, heavy rains waterlogged the city, and aviation safety is under scrutiny after recent airline incidents, with the DGCA reviewing protocols. Following the excursion, 3 signage boards and 4 runway edge lights were broken with nacelle damage. Emergency teams immediately activated. CSMIA suspended operations on the primary runway, activated secondary runway 14/32, and grounded the aircraft for checks, according to officials. Mumbai Airport advised passengers to check flight status and allow extra time amid monsoon disruptions. No matter how often and how many times people would argue about natural disasters, extreme weather, who may be pulling the strings for all that is anyone's guess, and it's up for debate, and everyone is entitled to whatever opinion they will have. But even there's such extreme weather and natural disasters, there always has to be some kind of preparation. We must prepare ourselves for the worst, because not many people can control that. But yeah, surely people in India have. I assume people in India had dealt with this before, and they know exactly how to handle that. Hopefully, no one is. I hope no one. I hope no lives are lost. I hope that. I hope there aren't any lives that have been lost or will be lost in the coming weeks during monsoon season. And of course, hopefully that Mumbai airport can continue with operations despite the the monsoons. Venice Film Festival lineup features Julia Roberts, George Clooney, Emma Stone, and Dwayne Johnson. Festival artistic director Alberto Barbera unveiled the lineup for the 82nd Venice Film Festival, which runs from August 27th to September 6th. Venice has established the Venice International Film Festival's reputation, noting Oscar-winning films like The Shape of Water, Spotlight, Nomadland, and Birdman. Jury President Alexander Payne will preside over the main jury, joined by Fernando Torres, Mohamed Rus Rosulov, Kristen Magu, Stefan Blaise, Maura Del Perro, and Zhao Tao. Netflix returns with Noah Baumbach, Baumbach's Jake Kelly, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, featuring Jacob Elordi, Oscar Isaac, and Maya Goth, and Catherine Bigelow's A House of Dynamite, starring Idris Elba, Rebecca Ferguson, Greta Lee, Gabriel Basso, and Jared Harris. Selected films will follow at Toronto Film Festival shortly after Venice serves as the first stop before other fall festivals. Alright then, it's that time of the year again. Film festivals, Venice, as being a place so many tourists go to. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant time of the year, and I'm not trying to glaze the Venice Film Festival. I think it's important that there are different festivals for many things, for many events, industries, sectors, and possibly interests. So fabulous. I don't have any other opinions besides the Venice Film Festival starting up and all the films that'll be showcased. Although I do hope that there are I hope there are iconic moments that comes from the Venice Film Festival, or at least any film festival in general, because I feel like there's more than just films. I think there are moments of interaction among celebrities and possible collaborations at some point in the future. Now, of course, it may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I think it'd be interesting that there is more to the story. There's more to events, film festivals, or festivals in general, besides people just coming to the festival and enjoy whatever that is there to offer. OpenAI and UK signed new AI agreement to boost security, infrastructure, and public service. In a London press release, OpenAI and the UK government signed a voluntary memorandum of understanding, deepening collaboration on AI security research and infrastructure investments, the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology said. Amid rising AI ambitions, the UK government unveiled its AI Opportunities Action Plan earlier this year to inject AI across the economy and public sector. Government forecasts indicate rising demand for AI infrastructure, with a £1 billion investment to amplify public compute capacity 20-fold in 5 years. Under the memorandum, OpenAI will partner with UK agencies to test AI in justice, defense, security, and education, and share technical information with the UK AI Safety Institute. In the coming years, the government projects AIRR's expansion will surpass current supercomputers, and Scotland and Wales will host AI growth zones. Stories like this gets me somewhat skeptical. I want to say I hope that does go well, but I do have concerns, and lots of it. Like I haven't already discussed my concerns about AI already. Whilst it is important, and it is very beneficial for artificial intelligence to assist in weekly, day-to-day tasks that has to be done, and of course provide data and analysis for what goes on in the world, will it replace the current jobs that there are right now? And again, I know we don't have to worry about that in the next 2 or 3 decades, at the least, at the minimum. However, I think another concern I have is, what if the AI, like any AI in general, what if it doesn't function properly? What if it makes an error that we may not notice? Well, at least some people would notice, but not everyone would pick up right away. I'm all for allowing artificial intelligence to make progress in whatever industry that might be. But I think there has to be alternatives. There has to be a plan for when if AI fails and when the people in charge, like humans, I'm talking humans here, take control, take charge, and resume whatever tasks that AI was planning to do before the fault or the error. That's just me. That's the concerns I have about AI. I know AI in general was going to do well in the next few years, and it's going to be very, very beneficial for every sector that uses it. But we can't be too reliant on it, and especially we cannot be complacent in their capability in case something goes wrong with it. And if something goes wrong with it, what what is what is anyone going to what are people going to do about that? Is there a way to manually overdrive the system? Can people manually operate it without having to use AI? I mean, right now there's a lot of jobs that don't need AI, but what if? But at some point, every sector is going to be fully integrated with AI, and if there is a point that all sectors are fully AI integrated, can it still operate manually without the AI in service? I hope so. I really hope so. Don't screw up, guys. Don't screw this up. You're going to need as much luck you can get. Beef prices are the new egg prices. They're soaring. Oh dear. Ground beef prices across the US continue to reach new highs, driven by shrinking cattle herds, with looming import restrictions threatening to push costs even higher. According to government data released last week, the average price of a pound of 100% ground beef rose to $6.12 last month, up from $5.98 in May and $5.47 in June 2024. Experts have said this trend shows no signs of slowing, meaning there may be upward pressure on prices through 2026 and beyond. It might be the last 2 to 3 years before we would see any significant change on the supply side that would ultimately lead to some moderation in beef prices. Agricultural economist Daryl Pule told Newsweek the rising costs of staple agricultural products such as beef and eggs have further strained household budgets in 2025, as well as the budgets of businesses reliant on the sales of these items. In addition to having an outsized effect on inflation data, summer price increases are hitting during the peak months when beef sales traditionally peak because of outdoor gatherings. further underscoring the growing issue. June marks the first month since data collection began in the 1980s that ground beef prices rose above $6 per pound. According to the Consumer Price Index released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics on July 15th, steaks saw the largest increase among beef products in June, up 12.4% since June 2024, at an unadjusted rate, followed by ground beef at 10.3%. This compares to a 0.5% increase for pork products and 3.9% for chicken. These prices pressure are due to several factors, both short and long term, with shrinking cattle herds in the US a leading cause. Now, I got one thing to say. Get in the game. And I mean the farm animals specifically. They need to get in the game. There are no excuses. I understand there are circumstances in the agriculture sector. However, what's the reason for these issues? And can it be solved? Well, it has to be solved. How long will that take for it to be solved? Come on, I expected better. And as much as national or federal governments are going after the agriculture sectors and farmers in general, I can't press too hard on that because I understand agriculture is an underrated sector. There has to be a way for the farm animals, the herds, or just animals in general, to get in and pass on their bloodline and contribute to the produce for not just of the animals, but for the humans as well. Everything works in nature's way, as it should. But of course, environmental circumstances will adjust, at least so long as there aren't any artificial elements involved. Then we should be good. Qatar confirms talks over hosting 2036 Games. On Tuesday, the Qatar Olympic Committee said Doha is bidding to host the 2036 Olympic and Paralympic Games in ongoing discussions with the International Olympic Committee. Reviewing the host selection process, new International Olympic Committee President Kirsty Coventry said last month her organization would be allowing multi-location bids, now enabled by the 2019 regulation change. Earlier this month, India officially presented Ahmedabad as their candidate city with confirmed applicants including Nusantara, Istanbul, and Santiago, and additional countries considering bids. Against this backdrop of controversy, human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, urged FIFA to push for deeper labor reforms. If selected, Qatar would become the first Middle East and North Africa country to host the Olympic Games. Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani said, highlighting regional significance. Now, multi-location bids. Okay, I think there's more that has to be discussed about multi-locations. Now, of course, I've already said in the past that hosting the Olympics to begin with is very, very costly. France has made a very good effort with Paris in 2024 to cut down the cost, even though they still went over budget. They use natural environments to host particular events, and they can be used again if ever needs to be. Now, what I want to know is why did the Olympics always focus or fixated on hosting in particular cities rather than hosting it across an entire country? Now, it does help with city representation, but I don't think it's enough for multi-location bids, as in multiple cities making their own individual bids. I think there has to be a way for more than one city, maybe two or more cities, that are close together within the same country, or preferably within the same region of said country, to have a joint bid together so they can offload the expenses and expand on available facilities to host particular events. I am not sure. I don't know why that's not happening or that is even in place to begin with. If the Olympics over the years, especially now, is getting more expensive, why not allow multiple cities to have joint bids together? Preferably cities that are close to each other and within the same region. Maybe a regional nation bid. Maybe Northwest England do a joint bid. Southern France do one of the France do a joint bid. Maybe somewhere in Northern Italy. Nothing too broad, but at least multiple cities within the same region of a country, all working together, bidding together, and distributing their available facilities amongst them to host specific events. That, what I believe, would really cut down on costs on hosting the Olympics to begin with. It is outrageous that is not in place. I hope something like that happens in the future. I really hope that is the case. Jeffrey Epstein saga just shut down the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives is starting its summer break early due to an impasse over the Jeffrey Epstein files. The House can't get anything through the Rules Committee because Democrats are introducing amendments to release the Epstein files. But Republicans are opposed. Representative Thomas Massey introduced a bill to release the files. He said Republican leadership wants people to stick their heads in the sand on the matter. Why? Because Donald Trump, for whatever reason, doesn't want these records to get out anymore, Representative Jim McGovern said. After years of promising America that his administration would release the Epstein files and tapes, Trump is now calling it a hoax. But Republicans don't want to vote against the measure either because they don't want to be seen as trying to keep the Epstein files a secret. Who cares? Who cares what people are going to think of you regarding the files? Just say, or I don't know how else to speak on the matter. If there are files, just release what is out there. It shouldn't be too hard. This is ridiculous. So what? Of course this is serious. However, people are going to find out eventually, so you might as well as get it out the way. If there are certain people that are heavily involved, so be it. Give them whatever punishment that has to be given. I'm just sick and tired of hearing about the files. Like, are you going to release them or not? Pick one and stick with it. No more flip-flopping. I had enough of the flip-flopping. Good grief. Canada now the center of North American measles outbreak. According to recent data, Canada has reported 3,822 measles cases so far this year, compared to 1,309 confirmed cases in the United States, despite having a much smaller population. Dr. Alison McGeer, an infectious disease physician in Canada, states that much of the Canadian outbreak is concentrated amongst unvaccinated populations, particularly within cultural and religious groups such as the Mennonite community. Both Dr. McGeer and Dr. Ghani suggest that the current measles outbreak could increase public confidence in vaccines. Of all those cases in Canada, 86% involved vaccinated people. Dr. Alison McGeer, an infectious, already read that. It's a range of different cultural and religious groups that have a different view of government than the rest of us, McGeer told Straight Arrow News. The reason they left Europe to come to North America was an aversion to having government, in their perception, control their lives. As a consequence, their trust in government is low, further eroded by the restrictions that were necessary during the COVID pandemic to keep people alive, and they tend not to get vaccinated. McGeer said the outbreaks started with a wedding in New Brunswick from a person who had contracted measles outside North America. Wow, that is, who would have thought measles would make a comeback after decades? After decades ago, it was announced that measles are no longer existent, but now they're back. And will it be? Could it be as bad as it was before? No, not really. And I'm not saying it's going to die down, but I know that advances in healthcare and medication research it certainly they will do the job in tackling measles or any disease in general. So I'm not going to discourage people in getting whatever medication or whatever is needed to combat measles or any other diseases that may be floating about. I will say, you do have to question healthcare experts about this, and whatever the answer they give, just go with it. Don't be compliant, but if there are experts that know what they're doing and they say and they advise you on something, go with it. Don't argue with it. You can question it, but don't argue with it. You cannot argue with something that you know so little about. So I'll just leave it at that. It's unfor it's unfortunate that measles is making a comeback, but of course, recent advancements in medicine, healthcare, other related other related sectors, they will find a way. They'll find a way. It's not going to go away it's not going to be eradicated completely, but it will be a start, and something will be done eventually. England's Lionesses change pre-match stance after racist abuse. England's women's team will not take a knee before their Euro semi-final game against Italy, following ongoing racist attacks against player Jess Carter. After receiving racial abuse throughout the tournament, Carter announced she would step away from social media, with her team and national authorities supporting her and investigating the incidents. The Football Association, government officials, and the team emphasized the need for more effective measures to combat racism in football, soccer football to be exact, pledging continued collaboration with authorities and social media companies. Her national team added, "We stand with Jess and all Lionesses players, past and present, who have suffered racism. Until now, we have chosen to take the knee before matches," the team adds. "It is clear we and soccer football, need to find another way to tackle racism. We have agreed as a squad to remain standing before kickoff on Tuesday." According to Sky Sports, the 27-year-old revealed she has been the subject of racist slurs since the tournament began. The team stated that they are collaborating with the Football Association and the United Kingdom Police to identify those responsible for the social media posts. So much to unpack here. Regardless of what you identify as, whatever your ethnicity, religion, the walk of life you've been through, no one should go through that, ever. After years of seeing what people of particular people groups have been through, I'd expect that people should know better and be more accepting of other people's differences. You don't have people don't Of course you don't have to agree with how they live their lives, but we should at least allow them to continue living their lives, so long as there isn't any violence. Then that's where we'll have a problem. Violence should never be the answer. But of course, back on the slurs, the racist slurs. Why? What's the need? And this is just me. I may not be in that position many times, or may not even be in that position ever again. But why should people should ever say horrible things about people. I don't get that. No one should ever be in that position. We may be different people, but we're still the same species. We should be treated as such. Anyway, I hope something does get resolved. Something is to be done, and whoever is responsible, they will get the punishment that they shall deserve. But of course, on the other hand, and I'm not going to dismiss the discrimination that people have gone through, or at least the England's women's team, at least recently or in the past few years, even there is abuse or discrimination going against them, you can't let that discrimination get into your head. You can't let it affect how you do on the field. Don't let it get the best of your mentality. Yes, it hurts, and no one should ever go through that. But never let those people get the best of you. Never let those people have power over you. Overpower that. Tell them that their words mean nothing, and they're going to do the best they can. That, I will say, no one should go through that. So don't ever let them affect how they live their lives and how they do and how they perform on the field. Smartphone use in kids under 13 linked to depression, suicidal thoughts. Ooh, wow. Okay, that's tragic. A new study shows using smartphones before the age of 13 can significantly damage kids' mental health, with researchers warning that they shouldn't be allowed to have them. The study linked smartphone use to suicidal thoughts, poor emotional regulation, lower self-worth, and detachment from reality, with the efforts proving worse for girls. Researchers also found that the younger the smartphone user was, the worse their mental health and well-being were likely to be. In addition to lower self-worth, earlier smartphone ownership was also linked to diminished self-image and confidence, lower emotional resilience among females, and lower stability, calmness, and empathy among males. The study also found the impacts compounded, meaning the younger the smartphone user was, the worse their mental health and well-being were likely to be. Researchers say that could be because smartphone users expose them to social media and cyberbullying at earlier ages, while also being linked to sleep disruption and poor family relationship. Well, there's no arguing with that. And of course, studying studies like this also explains why the Australian government is wanting to prevent people under the age of 16 to use social media. Now, although we should allow children to make choices on their own, we can't let children put their mental or physical states at risk because of outside environments and other circumstances which they would never have to go through at a particular age. Or at least they shouldn't be going through that until they're old enough to make their own decisions. Still stuck between allowing access to information and protecting the youth from the harms of social media. I'd say it's the social media platforms themselves that are the problem. They're encouraging the harm that is affecting the children. I think there should be stronger safeguards. Not too restrictive, but there should be some kind of safeguards in place. In the event that if there are young users, there is there is a strict, unpenetrable barrier preventing them from seeing very harmful content. Now, of course, that will go against freedom of speech and freedom of movement across online platforms. But if it means that children are safe from harmful effects that will affect them later in life or negatively impact them in later years, so be it. There are difficult decisions that people have to make, but whatever prevents further harm, physically or mentally, so be it. I'm more than happy to go with that plan, even if the decision itself is difficult to begin with. Here's what Southwest Airlines will officially end its open seating policy. Starting January 27th, 2026, Southwest Airlines will end its decades-old open seating policy and introduce assigned seats. Passengers can pick from 3 seat types: extra legroom, preferred, and standard. The airline aims to improve comfort and streamline boarding with new groupings. Our customers want more choice and greater control over their travel experience, said Tony Roach, Executive Vice President of Customer and Brand at Southwest Airlines. This is an important step in our evolution, and we're excited to pair these enhancements with our legendary customer service. Well, it's a shock that I find it surprising that I don't pay attention much to what US airlines do and what they say, but dec open what was it? A decades-old open seating policy. Now I'm questioning, when did other airlines in the US ended whatever seating policy Southwest Airlines was using up until now? What was the reason for that? Well, either way, Southwest Airlines is making a change, and although I don't have too strong of opinion on seating, because well, you're just basically choosing where you want to sit for whatever flight routes you want to go, whether it be in the US or outside. Well, hopefully there is some good that comes from it, because well, what's the reason? Why now are they changing? Like, is it not working out as they wanted to? Do they want to change? Who knows? Comment your suggestions below. The Green Bay Packers have agreed to a 4-year extension worth $88 million with right tackle Zach Tom, according to a person familiar with the contract. And who is this person exactly? Very interesting. The extension can reach a maximum value of $92 million and includes a signing bonus of $30.2 million, the person said. Again, who is this person? And why do they not want to be named? Zach Tom has played in 46 NFL games for the Packers since being drafted in 2022 and has started every regular season game for Green Bay the past 2 years. Pro Football Focus reported that Tom was graded as the 6th best offensive tackle and 3rd in run blocking last season. Wow, those are pretty good stats. Hopefully Zach Tom does very well wherever he's going. And, I don't pay attention much to American football, not to be confused with soccer football. However, yeah, hopefully, whatever sports players' careers go from here, hopefully he does very well. If not, well, you have to really consider what you're going to do next, because it would be too late to go back if it's too late. UN body says over 1,000 have been killed seeking food in Gaza since May as hunger crisis worsens. In recent weeks, Gaza humanitarian foundations militarized aid sites have killed nearly 900 Palestinians and injured over 5,700, exposing a lethal distribution system. Since the end of May, GHF's new system has replaced the United Nations aid pipeline funneling civilians through narrow, militarized corridors designed as kill zones, according to reports. On July 15th, the United Nations reported at least 875 killings at aid points, while a United Nations agency said it came under fire from Israeli tanks during a convoy approach. Philippe Lazzarini, called the scheme. The so-called GHF distribution scheme is a sadistic death trap, adding many are now fainting due to hunger and exhaustion. The ADC urged shutting down the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and ending United States support, while Israel faces a genocide case at the International Court of Justice. This is sick in a bad way. Very bad. I've heard so much about conflicts and wars and unaliving of soldiers and civilians many times before. But this is this is messed up. At this point, regard what happens with the history may not even matter at this point. The history is relevant to why we're here, but justifying the history to where we are today isn't going to do much anymore. At this point, going forward, both sides, whether one side saying they want to continue killing their own people, I think a lot of people in this world had more than enough of this. They really want this to stop. However, they're going to keep going. Why? Well, who knows? It's beyond anyone's understanding why the unaliving and the violence would continue like this. But why would they want to continue to begin with? No one in this world should ever go through that. And even if there are major celebrities speaking out on the issue, which is getting all of the attention that should be getting, there is so much we can do. However, there are limitations in military strength, jurisdiction, and of course, terrainal access. Terrainal, if that makes sense. Or at least access to enter the territory that's under threat. Personally, I just want this to end. But of course, there are circumstances that would allow it to continue regardless. We can have the entire world asking this conflict or genocide to stop, but they're going to continue doing that. They're going to continue with the violence regardless. However, we can all hope that there is a solution in the near future where the violence comes to an end. And when that day comes, everyone is going to be celebrating, crying tears of joy, jumping up and down, and of course setting off fireworks in awe of celebration for putting an end to the violence that we're seeing right now. And that is the episode.